right, my friends, welcome to the show, Stock Charts in Focus. Of course, our product focus show here on the channel where we dig into the site, dive into the tools, show you around the features, and ultimately help you get more value out of stock charts. That is our mission here every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time up on our live channel, also up on our YouTube channel after that, and the on-demand platform at StockChartsTV.com. You got lots of ways to watch. My name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. Great to be back with you as always. And on today's show, we're going to stay focused on ACP, of course, our advanced charting platform. Relatively new to stock charts, but brings you dynamic interactive charting in this all-in-one kind of package. Everything that you need is in ACP. You've got your charts, you've got market data, you've got your chart list, you can run scans, you can even watch Stock Charts TV and trade through our Trader brokerage integration, all right there in ACP. This show is all about a couple of the hidden gems kind of buried within that platform, but we will touch on kind of what ACP is and give you a sense of kind of how those new charts work over there. Now, I do also like to say this to people every time we talk about ACP. Sharp charts are kind of classic charting tool, not going anywhere. Actually, I'm sort of pulling back the covers here. We've got some huge news coming to you guys about sharp charts in just a couple of weeks. I cannot wait to pull back the curtains for real on what's happening there. But we've got a lot of very exciting things coming to sharp charts. We're going to sort of pull back some of the curtains on that in just a couple of weeks. So much more coming there. But if you like sharp charts, if you're used to those kind of classic charts that are a little bit more static, the charts that Stock Charts is really kind of known for, rest assured that platform is not going anywhere. And like I said, we've got some huge things coming to that platform in just a couple of weeks and then throughout the rest of this year. If you do like this kind of dynamic charting experience that we're going to highlight today, then ACP is also another option for you. We love having these kind of two different ways to chart the markets, these two different platforms. Some folks love those static charts. Some folks like the interactivity like you're going to see today. So just rest assured, neither it's not kind of a battle between the two. We give you guys options. You get to pick how you want to chart the markets and which platform works better for you. So with that out of the way, let's jump over to ACP and we'll dig into the show. So here we are in ACP. Now you might have seen this before. You might be an ACP user, but if you are not familiar with what this is, like we said, our advanced charting platform. You have dynamic controls over your charts. You can sort of move through time. And we've got some interactive features that you are going to see today. I don't want to spoil it all just yet, but what we're going to do is highlight 5 of my favorite little kind of hidden gems that I like to show people when we talk about ACP. All of these really touch on kind of the interactivity of this platform. Now, the way ACP works, just kind of at a high level, you do have this kind of wrapper around the chart. So you've got your charts in the middle. You can actually add multi-chart layouts to ACP. For instance, if you click the plus button, you can see we add one more chart to the screen. You can add multi-chart layouts up to 12 charts on the screen. What you have, though, are kind of your basic controls across the top: symbol, chart type, period, and range. And then on the left side of the screen, you get all of your sort of higher level chart setup features. So this is where you can actually see all of the indicators that are on your charts. You can add additional indicators in the add indicator menu right here as well. You can even do things like set color schemes. Once you've created some of your ACP charts, you can save those as chart templates, or chart styles as we call them. And you've even got some samples right in here to kind of help get you going. So if you want to play around with some sort of out-of-the-box pre-built chart templates, you've got those accessible right over here on the left side as well. You can add annotations to your charts, and again, you can create those multi-chart layouts and even save those to your own account. You can see that I have a ton of layouts saved in my own account, but you can set up those multi-chart layouts right here, again, up to 12 charts on the screen. And again, we have sample layouts for you to choose from. So if you want to kind of get used to how some of those layouts work, we've got some samples for you to play with there. You've got some share and download features over here as well, including the ability to actually create dynamic alerts, price alerts, right from the chart. All you have to do is actually click where you want to set that price alert, and you'll see that price gets entered right in here. So some very cool kind of interactive features there. I actually use the alert functionality a ton here in ACP. That kind of rounds out the left side, and over here on the right, we have all of those other views. So this is where you can access your chart lists when you want to build up those watch lists or portfolio lists, follow your charts, save your charts, those kinds of things. You can do that right here on the right side of ACP. You've also got the ability to run scans right in here. You can actually see your alerts. You can see what's happening in the markets with the market summary panel, filter through different stock views. So if you want to look at scooter reports, for instance, or the market movers, see what's moving, different indexes, you've got all of that right here as well. And the list goes on. You've actually got access to different plugins from different plugin providers. So things like our Chaikin Analytics Power Gauge, one of the plugins that we have. You can actually learn more about all of those with this little plug icon down here. And one of my favorite features, you've got the symbol summary built right into ACP. So this gives you kind of that high level data. And as you go through the markets, kind of charting along, this will actually follow along with you. So whatever the main chart on the screen is, this symbol summary panel will get updated. So that's kind of the quick tour of ACP. You also do have some features along the bottom, actually more access to your chart lists, and even the ability, like we said, to watch StockCharts TV right from here. Now, there is a ton to show you in ACP, much more that we can cover in just one show. But before we get into those 5 interactive features, I do want to let you know, if you come up here to this little question mark icon, you got a couple of different options. You can read up on what's new. You can actually set some platform preferences, things like that. But we have something called the ACP tour right here. Take a tour of ACP. So when you give that a click, that'll actually start this kind of interactive tour, and you'll see we'll skip through it here really quickly, but this will actually kind of tour you around the platform, give you a sense of where different things are. So if you're new to ACP, you want a good way to kind of learn more on the fly dynamically, this is a great way to do it. You can flip through these different tips and it'll explain what different things do, where things are, all of that good stuff. So that's your kind of high level tour of ACP. Now, like we said, the key with ACP is that these charts and the whole platform really are meant to be very dynamic, very fluid and flexible. There are some incredible controls. You can move things around the screen. You can move through time. You can even customize your chart simply by dragging things up and down. So that's what we're going to highlight on the show today with these 5 interactive features. The first one that we are going to start with is a feature that we actually have turned on right up at the top of the screen. Now, sometimes we call this scrunch mode, but the technical term for it is fit to window mode. So your ACP charts have 2 options for you with the way that the charts are kind of rendered on the screen or rendered in the platform. By default, this fit to window mode is going to be turned on. That little arrow button is going to be filled in with that gray circle. That means that fit to window mode is turned on. When we say that fit to window mode is turned on, what we mean is that the chart is going to be fit to the window that you have visible. No matter how many indicators you have on that chart, it's all going to be in view. It's going to get basically scrunched onto the screen. Now, that's totally fine when you have a chart like what we have up on the screen right here. We've just got a couple of moving averages on this chart, volume bars, and 1 indicator panel. So things look pretty good. But if we jump over to a chart, we'll actually pull one from my account that has a lot more indicators on it. We'll pull that up right now. In this case, you can see we have 3 indicator panels above the price bars. We've got 3 indicator panels below. And because we have fit to window mode turned on, all of those indicator panels are going to get sort of crunched up into the screen. And this chart gets a little bit tricky to read. Everything starts to kind of flatten out, right? So what we've done is we've built in something called fit to window mode. It's going to be, like I said, on by default. But when you have a taller chart, you have the option of turning this off. So when we turn fit to window mode off, all we have to do that is give that little arrow, sort of compression arrows icon a click. You can see that this chart now scrolls off the screen. The chart is no longer scrunched into the visible window. It actually scrolls off the screen. From here, what I can now do is actually scroll up and down on this chart. So when I have a taller chart, a more complex chart, something that has a lot of different indicators on it, this is a great feature to know about. I do kind of toggle back and forth between having this on and off, depending on the chart that I have up on the screen. Whenever I have a taller chart like this, it's really nice to be able to turn that off and let that chart just kind of be full size. I like to be able to kind of scroll up and down on this, and as you can see, things aren't getting sort of manipulated as much. So I can see the price bars, I can see the indicator panels, And if I do want to crunch this back down, well, all I got to do is hit that once again. So very, very easy, but you do have control over sort of how your charts are rendered on the screen. Again, if you've got a taller chart, you might want to turn this off so that fit to window mode doesn't sort of impact you, and that chart can actually scroll off the screen. So that is our first stop. First little hidden gem, something that you need to know about here in ACP, fit to window mode. You can actually play around with some of those other platform settings as well. For instance, the crosshairs, you can see when I hover over this chart, I've got that vertical and horizontal line indicating exactly where I am. That is a mode that you can actually turn on or off. So if we turn off those crosshairs, you can see that those lines go away. So you got a couple of different platform settings up here to play with. Now, I've put us back to a simpler chart that's not gonna have quite as much on it, just so that we can kind of see things a little bit more easily. We're gonna move to our second hidden gem that I love to show people. That is the dynamic full quote. Now, one of the features that we brought over from SharpCharts to ACP is something called the full quote. What the full quote does in SharpCharts, in our sort of traditional charting platform, it adds a lot more info to the top of the chart. It brings in things like the open, the high, the low, the close, market cap, earnings per share, PE ratios, what else is in there? Market cap, scooter rankings are in there. You got a lot of stuff that's in that full quote. And it's an option in SharpCharts that you can turn on or off. Well, here in ACP, we can do things a little bit more dynamically. So you do have that same option. If you actually open up the chart settings and you go into the main settings up here at the very top, hit this big gear icon. If you hit the main settings for this chart, you can see that one of the options kind of towards the top here is chart header. You've got 3 different options in this menu. You can do a slim quote. As you can see, that's going to give you a very, very slim quote, just the symbol and the name and a little bit of price data over here on the right. You can do what we call the standard quote, which brings in additional data like sector and industry, gives you a little bit more space. You can kind of see things a little bit more clearly. Or you can turn on the full quote. And when you turn on the full quote, that's going to give you this full panel, again, bringing in all of that additional data. So bid and ask is actually going to be in there, PE ratios, earnings per share, market cap, just like we were describing a minute ago. Here in ACP, you also get earnings dates in that full quote, which is really, really nice. We've built in some dynamic features, dynamicness, if you will, to this full quote though. So if we leave our chart on the standard quote, you can see that we have this little blue plus sign. When we give that a click, what that's going to do is pop out that full quote panel on the fly. So we can actually leave our ACP charts with the standard quote header and still have access to that full quote panel, that additional data, really, really easily. When we're done with it, all we have to do is click that again. It turns into a minus sign. We give that a click and we are back to our standard quote. So I love to leave my charts personally on the standard quote. And whenever I want to access that full quote data, whenever I want to see earnings dates or see what the scooter value is, maybe see if this has a dividend and what it's yielding, all of that is right there for me in the full quote, and I can access it very, very easily. So I love to show people that access to the full quote right from the standard chart header. Very, very nice. Another one of those kind of dynamic features, a little bit of a hidden gem here in ACP. Now, a minute ago, we're going to move on to our third hidden gem, hidden interactive feature here in ACP. A minute ago, you saw me pull up the chart settings. And what I did to access that was show you kind of the slow way. We went over here to the left side of the platform. We hit chart settings. We opened up that panel. We looked for that gear icon and we hit that chart settings icon, that little gear icon for the whole chart. So this is where we can start to change things like our log scale, what kind of background we want, what we want our legends to look like, all those different kinds of things, including candlestick coloring, lots and lots of options in here. That's sort of the slow way to get to your chart settings though. Again, because ACP has this dynamic nature to it, we actually have a very quick way to access settings for pretty much anything around the chart. To do that, all you have to do is click on the legends. Now, what do we mean by legends? We mean these little boxes that tell you kind of what is on your chart. So when you add an indicator, when you add an overlay like a moving average, you're going to have that little legend appear on the chart. If you want to edit anything about the chart, you pretty much just have to give it a click and it's going to open you up right to the place that you want to go. So if we wanted to edit the settings for the chart overall, we hover over that primary price legend that says the company name. We give that a click and you can see that's going to take us right to the chart settings for this chart. Couldn't be easier. Really, really easy to access the settings. We can now manipulate anything that we want and then just close that back down, hit that little blue box, and we're going to close that back down to our full chart. If we wanted to edit any of our moving averages, let's say we wanted to make the 200-day pink or something like that, all we've got to do is click that legend for that overlay, for that moving average, and like you can see here, we have quick access to those settings. Really, really easy to get there. Now you also have some other controls that you can actually access right from the chart legends. You can see that when I hover over any of these chart legends, I do actually have that little gear there. That's just basically a reminder that we can click any of these legends to edit these tools. We can also delete anything right from here. So if we wanted to remove the 100-day moving average, for instance, we can delete that right off our charts right from those legends. If we wanted to hide any of these overlays sort of dynamically, we can also do that with this little eye icon. So if we wanted to hide the 200-day, but we want to still leave it on the chart just for sort of future use, we can do that dynamically simply by clicking that eye icon. Really, really easy. Now, we can do the same thing for our indicator panels, but there's actually one other thing that I want to show you about those indicator panels. Same idea, if you want to edit any of the indicators on your chart, you can give those a click. That's going to open up the edit panel for that indicator specifically. And again, if you want to delete any indicators off your charts, all you got to do is look for that little delete icon. There's one other very cool thing that we can do from these legends for our indicators if we have multiple indicators on a chart. So if we get back actually to that sort of more complex chart that we were looking at before, this is, again, pretty tricky to read. We got fit to window mode turned on, so this thing is getting scrunched in here. But let's say we wanted to sort of narrow in on one specific indicator on this chart. We wanted to focus in on just the RSI. Well, you can see that if we have multiple indicators on an ACP chart and we hover over that legend, we've got a full screen icon that appears. What that's going to allow us to do is basically maximize that one indicator panel temporarily and then scale it back down when we're done with it. We can give that a click and you can see that the RSI now kind of takes over the screen. We do still have our price bars up top, but the RSI now gets kind of focus. We have this chart kind of changed on the fly dynamically. Again, interactive features here in ACP. And when we're done with this, when we've sort of looked at the RSI, we've analyzed it, we're done taking a sort of a closer look at that one specific indicator, all we have to do is hover over that legend, give that same icon a click, and it's going to zoom us back down to our original chart. So these chart legends are incredibly powerful here. You can access the edit functions, you can delete things, you can hide and show things, and you can even maximize those different indicator panels on the fly right from here. Very, very cool. Our fourth thing that we're going to show is actually kind of building off of that third one, that third feature being the legends. We also have the ability to drag and drop these indicator panels anywhere that we want on these charts simply by grabbing a legend, clicking and dragging exactly where we want to position it. So what I mean by that, we can actually move things around this chart simply by grabbing one of these chart legends, dragging it up and down to kind of reposition where we want things to be on this chart. Let's say, for instance, we wanted our scooter panel at the very bottom. Well, let's move the RSI. We want our RSI panel to be right up at the top. We focused in on that one earlier. So let's say we now want that to actually be the very top panel on this chart. Well, all we have to do is click and drag on that legend, and you can see that we can now move this panel around. The chart kind of changes. We've got that little yellow indicator telling us exactly where it's going to be positioned. We can actually drag indicators into other panels. You can see that when I hover here, that yellow box is around the entire indicator panel there. And if I drag it up a little bit more, now it's just a flat line indicating that it's going to be sort of dropped between those two panels. So we can drag these panels around on the fly to reposition our charts. If we wanted to move the accumulation distribution and on balance volume panel up, we can again do the same thing. So being able to actually move your indicators around your charts with ease simply by clicking and dragging, another great interactive feature of ACP here. By the way, if you want to reposition things or sort of re-heighten things, I guess, adjust the size of any of those indicator panels, you have a similar kind of interactive feature where you can just hover over those divider lines between your indicator panels and simply drag up and down to resize anything that you want. So if you wanted to make the accumulation distribution panel taller, you can just click and drag to resize that. Now again, we can make this chart nice and tall by turning fit to window mode off, and we can do the same kinds of things. We can actually hover over those lines and sort of dynamically resize any of these indicator panels that we want. So if you have an idea in ACP, you say, I wish that panel was taller, or I wish that panel was over here, you can pretty much just use your cursor as an extension of your hand, basically just reach out and do anything that you want to these charts. It's very, very cool what you can do interactively, dynamically here in ACP. I love to show people these different features. So we're going to get back to our nice, simple, clean chart for our last demonstration, which is going to be the drawer. Actually, before I jump over to the drawer, before I jump over to our fifth and final hidden gem, I should point out two other quick little things that you have access to. Down here on your charts in the bottom right corner, you have another little gears icon. If you see one of those gears, it basically means that you have options hidden inside. So if you give that little gear icon a click right on the charts, you can see you actually have some sort of settings that you can manipulate right on the fly. If you want to change things between log or arithmetic scale, maybe turn off dividend adjustment, or invert the chart on the fly, you've got some of those features, and a couple other ones here as well, turning on extended hours or turning off extended hours. The last price reference line is this little dotted line that goes right across those charts, indicating where this thing has traded last. You can turn that on or off right on the fly. Really, really easy. So I love to show people this little chart settings box. And if you do want to access the chart settings overall, you've got that entry right there for you at the bottom. You can also right click on your charts anywhere on the chart to open up some other settings. So again, you have access to the chart settings, but you've got some share features right there. You can create a price alert. You can save this to a specific chart list in your account. Really nice to be able to actually right click on these charts to open up that kind of action menu. Especially if you're sharing things or saving things, I find that this is a really, really handy little feature. Just right click on the chart, hit save, or right click on the chart and download an image. You got a couple of very cool options like that. So I guess now we're up to 7. We're going to show you our fifth and final interactive feature, but we just cheated and showed you 2 more. So I guess our show now is up to 7. So our last interactive feature of the day is going to touch on the drawer. We're going to get off the charts now. We're actually going to touch on something that we barely talked about earlier in the show, because I kind of wanted to save it for the end here. Down at the bottom of the screen, you can see that you have these 2 panels. We actually have other drawer features coming very, very soon to ACP, another thing that's rolling out across the site pretty soon. Excited to share more with you on that. The sector summary panel is actually going to come down to the drawer right here in ACP. Can't wait to show you that. But for now, you've got these 2 different options. And actually, if you are logged into a Tradier brokerage account, which you can access over here on the right, that's actually where the trading interface goes as well. So there is another option here. If you're a Tradier brokerage customer, if you do want to trade directly from StockCharts, you can sign up for a Tradier account and you'll actually be able to trade from right down here in the drawer in ACP. But sort of by default, you've got these 2 different options. You can access your chart lists, or you can watch StockCharts TV right from here. The most important one is the chart lists drawer. Now you do have access to your chart list like we showed over on the right side of the screen, but it's kind of a limited view. It's pretty narrow, only gives you some basic data about those chart lists. The sort of the meat and potatoes of your chart list here in ACP, it's all going to happen down in the drawer. So when you open this up, you'll see that this is kind of what things look like. You can select any of the chart lists from your account. You can tab through some of these different views. So you've got kind of a traditional summary view there. If you want to look at performance data, compare things over time, how things have performed, over the last 5 days or 1 month or year to date, you've got that performance view right in there. You can also leave chart comments and leave specific notes about any of your chart lists. All of that is in here as well. And if you want to edit your chart lists, you can do that in this drawer as well. The drawer itself is incredibly useful. I do a lot of work out of here when I'm working with my ACP chart lists. Having access to that drawer and having your charts at the same time is very, very handy. Now, of course, you can click anything from the drawer to actually load in a chart of that symbol. So you can see that we now get this little blue highlight indicating where we are. If we click CDNS, you'll see that that little highlight will move, and now we have a chart of that. So really, really handy. By default, when you click the drawer, it's going to open up to this position that we're at right now. Kind of takes over the bottom half of the screen. You have a lot of dynamic control, again, that word, dynamic interactive control over this drawer. So, two ways to do it. First and foremost, you can click on the chart list, title to open that thing up. And then when you want to sort of minimize it back down, you can just hit that little arrow over on the right side of the screen to minimize that back down to kind of that minimal view, just that bar going across. So you have the ability to sort of jump between those two positions really, really easily. If you do want to get rid of the drawer entirely, you actually have that down here in the bottom right as well. That'll sort of close it off the screen and take that bar across the bottom of your charts, take that off of your screen. You can always get it back simply by clicking that same button. So those are kind of the basics, right? That's what you're going to do. Typically, you're going to open it up, you're going to slim it back down. You do have the option, though, to maximize this drawer. So when we click that set of arrows, you can see that the drawer has now taken over the entire screen and makes it really, really easy to work with these lists, especially if you're editing things, moving stuff around, editing comments, those kinds of things. Maximize that drawer. It gives you as much space to work with as possible. And then when you're ready, you can just click that again, and it's going to zoom you right back down to the position that you started at. Now, the super, super cool thing, though, the most dynamic feature, when you hover over this black bar, you'll see that the cursor actually changes to be those arrows up and down. You can click and drag right on that black bar to actually dynamically resize this drawer. So you can position the drawer to be the exact height that you want it to be. Again, ACP is all about those dynamic controls, and this is a great example of it. So the drawer, an incredibly powerful piece of ACP, especially for working with your lists. You got a ton of different ways to use it. You can open it, you can close it, and you can even drag it around to position it to be the exact height that you want. I also love full screening that thing, making it take over as much screen real estate as possible. Gives you a ton of room to work with those lists. So that is our whirlwind tour of ACP, and specifically 5, maybe I guess we're calling it 7 now, 5 to 7 of my favorite interactive hidden gem features here in ACP, our advanced charting platform. If you're new to ACP, hopefully this has given you a sense of kind of what's there, giving you a taste of what those dynamic charts can do for you. But again, if you love sharp charts and that's where your work is done, rest assured, Sharp Charts is only getting better. We love having these two different ways to chart the markets, static and dynamic. You get to pick the one that works for you. I love some of these interactive features, though. The dynamic nature of ACP makes it very, very powerful, especially being able to move through time. You can move from a 1-year chart to a 3-year chart to a 10-year chart very, very easily simply by scrolling around. So hopefully this has given you a sense of what's there. Remember, you have access to that tour, so you can always take that ACP tour up there in the top right corner, a really, really helpful way to learn more about ACP. So I want to thank you for joining me on the show today. Again, we do this every Friday, Stock Charts in Focus, digging into the site, digging into tools and features, ultimately trying to help you get more value out of Stock Charts. That's our mission. Again, my name is Grayson Roze, Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com. It's been great to be with you. I'll see you again soon for the next one. And remember, the next couple of weeks, we're going to start having some very, very exciting announcements as our next set of site-wide product releases starts to roll out. We're also going to have some amazing technology previews of some other things that we're working on. Lots of big news coming to your dashboard, Sharp Charts, some other charting tools. We got a lot coming to you in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. I will see you again soon for the next one, though. Until then, chart on, my friends.